Welcome to For the Record, an unfiltered view on current trends and timeless advice for surviving in the aesthetics industry. Whether you're an injector, practice owner, sales rep, or marketer, it's time to set the record straight. Each week we cut through the chaos and showcase diverse perspectives and winning ideas from the best minds in the industry. I'm your host, Dr. Tiffany Hall, Chief Growth Officer at Aesthetic Record. Now, let's get started on this week's episode. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of For the Record. And today you are in for what I know will be a real treat. We have an incredible physician's associate on today. That's going to be her medical title, but she's also, I think, a comedian. She's drop dead gorgeous. She's maybe the busiest chick in aesthetics, working between practices in different states, 3 of them. She's also had a long career as a financial planner and was very successful there and decided, hey, I'll go back and do aesthetics, why not? And she's here today to talk all about her business acumen, her injection skills, her crazy life, all the fun that she has. And I can promise you we're going to have a lot of laughs and a lot of fun. So Sarah Balladares, welcome to our podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm pumped.
Well, you got your new extensions in, looking fabulous. If you guys aren't watching this, go right now to Spotify and YouTube and give it a peek. I'm so glad to have you. I just met you for real at Aesthetic Next. Our friend Heather Rippian introduced us. And I just fell in love with you instantly. You are just, you really are so hilarious. I'm so funny.
It's
so
because
fun
I made
to be
you
around.
put my shoes on. I didn't believe you that you wore a size 10. And I was like, I kicked my shoe off and I was like, put it on. I don't trust you. And then you did. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. She's my people.
If you guys can't hear, she has a bit of a southern accent like I do. So we may get into some twang today. We might say some y'alls and some yeehaws, but we'll try not to.
Cannot wait.
But you're coming from a very interesting background, having done a lot of things. We share a love of finance, which you left it and so did I. So we had both had a short-term love affair with it. And you have this incredible career that you've embarked on in a whole new industry, in a whole new world, which, by the way, we'll get into that, but who the hell does that? That's insane. But let's kind of rewind and go back, because I think our audience may not know you quite like I do. So give them just a quick rundown of all things Sarah.
Okay, all things Sarah. So like you were saying, Tiffany, we both had a love affair, short as it may be, with finance. I went and got a marketing degree from LSU. I was a financial planner for 5 years. My clients were physicians and nurses and CRNAs and all these people. And after about 5 years, I was talking to some of the surgery residents and I was like, guys, I just don't love this anymore. I know that I know what I'm doing, but at the same time, it's just not my jam, right? And so I think I'm gonna go be a plastic surgeon. And they had a legit intervention with me. 5 of them sat me down and just said, you're not going to med school. I was like, no, but I am. I just needed you to tell me which one I'm going to. And one of them really pulled me to the side. His name's Josh. And he says, Sarah, look at how we're living right now. You need to go be a PA. And I said, well, what's a PA? I have no idea what that is. So I'm going to say they snuck me into the OR. You can't sneak into an OR. We all know that. I did paperwork and things. But anyway, they got me into the OR following an anesthesiologist so I could see what these different surgeons were doing. I saw some pediatric surgery, but the one that really got me was this open heart surgery. And I'm watching the doctor operate, but then across the table from him was a PA. And I was like, well, what's that girl do? I want to do that. She's taking down all the arteries. She's doing all this cool stuff. And they were like, well, that's what we want you to do. I said, oh, well, why didn't y'all just say that the first time? So from there, I kind of took a step back from my financial practice. I became a support role in that office. So I was, didn't have to train anybody new, so I could just do all the applications and all that good stuff. So I was working there. I picked up an EKG tech role and a scribe role at the hospital. And then I took 21 hours, 17 hours, 15 hours, all within this year time frame of trying to get to PA school. And if you know me, I'm like, that's not a lot. And then you look back and you're like, I tried to kill myself. It's fine. So I applied to UAB, got waitlisted. Who does that? And then I was kind of like, okay, well, maybe this isn't my year. We'll figure it out. So then the next day, right after the new year, I called and I was like, hey guys, is the waitlist moving? What's going on? So I took that initiative to make the phone call. RIP Bill Drace, who's the nicest admissions man ever. He picks up the phone. He goes, nope, haven't moved it. Hangs up on me. I was like, oh, okay, I guess that's it. And then he calls back later, and he says, Sarah, we need some help. We are putting together this EKG class, and we really need you to help teach it. I was like, absolutely, whatever you need, I'm there. Like, I'm your girl. Let me come help. And it really didn't click for me that he was like, no, Sarah, you got into PA school. And I told him to shut the F up on the phone. And he was like, I'm sorry, excuse me. I said, oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. And then I ran around my house screaming. Go to PA school. I knew that I wanted to do aesthetics from the very beginning. When I was younger, I got headbutted playing soccer. So I've had to have 2 nose jobs, a root canal. Now I've got a whole set of veneers because all my teeth were dying. That's like a 10-year process in the making. But I knew I wanted to do aesthetics because the confidence that I got back from my 2 nose jobs was like, I want to give this to other people. This is incredible. So I went through my entire PA school career knowing that this is what I want to do. I'm handy, I'm crafty, I'm all the things, but the passion is there because I had my own experience with it. I guess backtrack on that one. I've had Botox since I was like 22 years old. I'm like 97 now, so you can see it's doing really well for me. But I knew this was my career path, so I focused all my electives on it, the whole thing. So, and let's see, after I graduated, this is such a long story. After I graduated, from Alabama, I ended up going up to Ohio for a year, traveling back down to Louisiana after a year because it's too cold in Ohio. And then getting with a practice in Baton Rouge. That didn't work out after about 6 months. And then I was unemployed for like 2 months, met my husband in that time frame. He's like, who is this crazy person who has no job? She's just unemployed. And I ended up getting 2 new jobs in August and September of 2019. The first was with an office that I work at in Metarie, and the second was my own office that I opened in September of 2019. And all the while, I was still that whole year going back and forth to Ohio every 6 to 8 weeks. And now we're here 3 years later. Have a great practice in Baton Rouge. I love my practice in Metarie. I love my practice in Ohio. And here we are.
And you live in North Carolina?
Oh, yeah. And I moved to North Carolina. I was overserved at Aesthetic Next. And my husband was texting me the entire meeting. Look at this house. I'm like, I'm busy. I'm meeting people. Like, leave me alone. Why are you so obsessed with me? And he's trying to buy us a house. And I was standing right next to you. And he goes, we got the house. And I remember showing you and Heather. I'm like, guys, I'm moving to Charlotte. Look at us go. So yeah, I live here now in Charlotte. So I'm on a plane every other week.
That's a lot of stuff there, Sarah. A lot to unpack. First of all, I want to say, if you went to plastic surgery, if you went that route, you'd be like 85 still in your fellowship.
I know.
So, especially if you're already 97. Thank God you didn't do that. God bless those people who, they don't make money until they're like 40. It's just crazy. But as a PA, I'm curious, in PA school, saying I want to be an injector. First of all, did they take you seriously or think that you're crazy? Because I have so many friends who are in NP school, and they're like, are you crazy? That's not a real job. And they're like, hello, I have a giant practice making millions of dollars a year. Like, it's for sure a real job. And then second thing, did you actually get to inject at all when you were in PA school? Or was all that, sort of ex post facto, you graduate, then you get to go learn how to inject? So give us the rundown on that.
So I distinctly remember being at a conference in Vegas, the AAPA conference, and I distinctly remember two of my professors sitting me down. This is like a theme in my life. I've never had like a real intervention, but apparently all across my, career, I have interventions. Anyway, they both sat me down and they were like, do not do aesthetics. This is not for you. You have such good grades, your stuff. Go do something else where you can help people. Like, we need more PA, like go do something else. Don't do aesthetics. And I was just like, middle fingers up, like, no, absolutely not. Like, this is what I want to do. I got a fire in my belly for this. Don't try to put it out. So like, I still hold on to that little hate fire. No, I love them as people. But I knew I wanted to do that. So all of my extracurriculars is not the word. Electives is the word. We get 4 at UAB, and all of them were plastics. I did 2 plastic surgery rotations, 1 burn rotation, which is helpful for peels and all that good stuff. And I did 1 in vascular as well, but like a vein clinic. So I could learn sclerotherapy, and they also did aesthetics there. So I could kind of bridge all of those. And that was my well thought out plan at the time. I did get to inject a little bit. And we also made friends with the plastic surgery residents. So we got injected. We're smart people, they need people to practice on. I got a face, you got hands, let's go. So we really, I learned so much from working with those residents and getting to inject, and they let us inject our friends. It was all not ideal, obviously, not legal, whatever. But I really learned on my first job, right? So I interviewed all over the country to find a position that would work for me, as a prior business owner, prior financial planner with a business degree. I was like, I don't want to be injector number 47. Like, that's silly. I want to be the head honcho at this new clinic and, helping market their practice. Hindsight, that was dumb. I should have been injector number 47 because I was only able to learn from one person. And I think over these last several years, it's really dawned on me that training with a ton of different people, whether you pick up one thing from a training or 90 things from a training, that's what's important. That's what keeps you growing. So, after I joined that practice in Ohio, I realized, okay, like we got to do something a little bit bigger here.
Well, I think about that particular thing you just said is I have, we obviously at a Aesthetic Record have lots of injectors who come in who open new businesses and they, get their EMR with us and they're brand new. Like they're brand new, fresh off the degree in their hand, ink's barely dry, took their boards, whatever, NCLEX, the whole thing. And they're going to open a practice. And I'm always so concerned for them. And I can't tell them that, right? It's not my business, but I'm always so concerned to say, you don't know what you don't know yet. Go work somewhere where there's lots of people around you who know what they're doing and they know it really well. And go take that year or 2 years or 3 years or hell, 5 years and just go learn everything you can possibly learn, the good, the bad, the ugly. And then you're ready to go do your own thing. But you're not there yet because who are you going to call? Like, where are the Ghostbusters? If you're alone in a practice that you own and it's just you and your front desk girl who is, hourly in a college somewhere, she's an intern, whatever, who's going to help you? Nobody. You better have a really strong network of friends outside of your practice who will help walk you through something and do a virtual consult with you. I just think that I would be so, I'm like you. I have like balls of steel. I'll do about anything, but that would make me very nervous because I like to know how to do everything before I go do it, which I know is a terrible trait. But I mean, were you like scared to death when not scared to death, it's not the right word, but when you went to open your own practice, were you thinking like, holy shit, do I have all the things I need and all the skills I need and the tools I need to be great at this? Or were you like, I'm still learning and growing and, getting my crap together?
That is a really good question. I have a lot of come to Jesuses with people, by the way. Like when they're like, Sarah, I want to open a practice. I'm like, okay, which this, all because I've been through it. Who's going to be your medical director? What's your intro? Like, and I run through all of, not even the training part. Like I leave that off the table. Because what really gets people is the money, right? If I say your malpractice is going to be $5,000 a year, you have to go to training and then you have to send that physician to training that you have to work under. I go through this whole thing and they're like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I need to think about this a little bit more, which is something I kind of did. And I kind of knew because I had already worked in a practice and had those conversations, but I didn't really know. I opened my business out of desperation. I mean, if we're going to really get to brass tacks, I mean, I was, my probationary time was not renewed because I sometimes get a little spicy. I was hired on to be an owner in this practice. And I started asking a lot of questions and they didn't like the questions that I was asking, right? Because I have owned a business before. So I was trying to figure them out and feel them out. So anyway, I opened Smooth, which is the Baton Rouge location, out of desperation. I got a room in Sola. I found a medical director who would help me and I, got them the training that they needed, paid a lot of money, was scared to death, but I'm also a fly by the seat of my pants kind of person. Thank God my husband's an indoor cat and I'm an outdoor cat. He's like, hey, back it up. I'm like, no. Let's jump off this cliff. Let's roll. But yeah, I mean, it's terrifying. And when I look back now, I probably should have been way more scared than I was, but it was what am I going to do? I just moved back to town. Like, I'm just going to sit here and be fun employed. It was fun for 2 months. Don't get me wrong. But at some point I'm like, I got to move. I got to do something. And that's how I did it. Not out of, I think I'm gonna make some cash on the side and do something I've never done before. I did it for an entire year and a half, which is still not long enough to open your own practice, right? It's just, that's just silly, but I did it and here we are.
But I think when your back is against the wall, things are less scary because you just have to go
Oh
do
yeah.
it. Like I've had some rock bottom ish moments in my life, professionally and personally, and I think you just bootstraps it. You pick yourself up by your bootstraps, and you just have to go. Like whether it's I don't know if you've ever seen Frozen 2. I have a little boy, so I have. It's like, just do the next right thing. Like whatever the next right thing is, I have to just do that thing. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but when I get to that, that cross in the road, I'm going to make the next right decision. And I feel like there's things I look back on in my life too and say, oh my God, like how did I have the strength to do that? How did I think that was a good idea at the time? Like, thank God I did it, but I would have never now, knowing what I know, been like, yeah, sure, just go for it, girl, just do it. Like, I just think, when you're in that moment, you just go, you just do. And you put all this work
Mm-hmm.
into school and all these things you've been doing, so you had to make it pay off. But I think it's interesting you were asking questions, they didn't like that. They wanted you to buy into their business, like emotionally, obviously, but also as an owner. And they
Yep.
didn't want to pull the curtain back. I find that to be very, very shocking, but also not at the same time because people are, I think in this industry more than anywhere else, they're guarded because A, they think you're going to steal it, but also B, because some things don't always add up just quite right. And they're trying to kind of keep that under the table until they have to share it. So, what kind of, just because I'm curious, what kind of questions were you asking? Like, what did you want to know that was so polarizing?
Easy things. Why don't we carry this brand versus this brand? And not in a negative way. Like what's the thought process here? And then I think that when you ask questions like that, even in general in life, when you ask people deeper questions, they feel like they have to justify what they're saying to you. And maybe they haven't even justified it to themselves yet. And so now there's this like wall of, well, why are you asking that? Well, what do you like? They're going back and forth. And you're like, bro, I'm just asking a question. Like, if you want me to buy in here, like I'm gonna need to see what's going on. And I think that it was just like, you know, I'm gonna be ugly for a hot second here in the nicest way possible. She was like older, brown hair and like come in blonde, the whole thing. There was just a little bit of interesting dynamics there that it just wasn't going to work long term. But hell, like, thank God it didn't, because then I opened my own thing. I found another practice I love in New Orleans, and I still get to go to Ohio. Like, I get to do everything I want to do. And that just wouldn't have happened had it worked out long time. So I just did the next right thing and, started something new.
Take the leap, man. You gotta close your eyes and jump and hope to God there's like a puddle of water down there that you can land in.
Like a drop of water, like not even a puddle, just like a little, like a teardrop is all you need. And it's
Or
scary, but you know what? It works.
I'm like, where's Mary Poppins and that little umbrella she carries? The little magical umbrella that you can like float around in. I think there is a part of that where you need someone to come help catch you and like, or help, somewhere steer along the way. That's why you have to have an advisory board, like your own personal
Yes.
advisory board of people to say, Tiffany, that's not the right answer, or Sarah, go do that, or you can, or you can't. I think that thinking about yourself as a business and having your own advisory board and your own group around you, you call
Yep.
them mentors if you want, but they're just like the sounding board. But to that point, obviously, and I get the idea of like new school, old school. I've lost jobs many times in my life because I was a little too innovative, a little too off the rocker at the time. Looking back now, like, oh yeah, you were doing the thing that we should have done 5 years before it was the thing. Everyone always thinks you're crazy until you're right, but I'm used to that. I'm sure you are as well. But on the business side of that, so you're coming into this whole thing, and I think if you're a new injector listening, this is where I think it's important to take note of this. You're trying to learn how to be a great injector, right? As the forefront of your mind, patient safety, patient outcomes. But you're also figuring out how to run a business for the first time. To your point, malpractice, even like your state sales tax and all the things you have to file and charters, even getting your sign charter for this, for your city to put it out front of your building. Like these things you don't think about, right, when you're an injector. How much of that do you think we're missing out for new injectors coming out of school, PA school, NP school, to say, you want to run a business? Great. Good luck. You have a great cheek, a great lip, a great toxin. Ooh, you're a great injector. Have fun, run your business. Like, I just think we're missing this giant, like, red flag. We don't tell them any of that stuff until it's too late. And then they're in a financial hole and trying to dig themselves out.
Well, medicine as a whole, like I was a financial planner for medical professionals. Medical professionals, by and large, not everybody, but they don't know what they're doing. They have no idea what they're doing when it comes to business, when it comes to money, when it comes to, repaying student loans in a way that is meaningful and you're not going to be in debt for the rest of your life. That's what I was doing, right? I was helping them figure that out. Um, so to that point, there, if you have aspirations and dreams, right, of being this med spa owner or hell, doing your taxes, like there needs to be some sort of financial class, whether you take it on the weekend, whatever, figure it out. But there's got to be something to make sure you don't go into this massive debt. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I don't have, when I started Smooth, I had like 5,000. I had a chair. I had my first round of injectables, and I had rent and obviously malpractice and all that stuff. But like as you know, consumables go, I was probably like $7,000 into it, terrified, terrified that this $7,000 is going to just do me in. And it didn't, obviously, but I didn't open up this giant, you know, 10-room facility and have to fill it and pay people. I didn't do that. I started small because I knew that's what I could handle. And I think that, you know, when you get into, if you don't have the financial backing to open something crazy big, don't do it. Don't do it that way, because you're going to get into trouble and cause yourself so much stress. And if you were a year and a half in, like I was, you're nowhere near prepared to handle that. You're just not. As I was, like I said, financial planner, I was not prepared to handle this. Thank God I have, you know, the support of all the networking I had done previously. I had, you know, other injectors in my corner telling me I could do this, I can do this. But, you know, I can do this is not the same as here's $5,000 to start that. It's not the same thing. So, you know, going into it, I would have done it completely differently, but would I have? Because then I might not have done it. So that, you know, back against the wall, that's the choices.
Well, I think there's another layer to it as well. Is if you go in, let's say you have financial backing, and you are same place you're in, you're relatively new to this. You know, it's 2019. You're kind of brand newish, but someone's like, "Hey, I'll give you $100,000. Just go start it, whatever." If you build it and you build it big, unfortunately, they will come, and you're not ready yet as an injector. You're not ready yet for the patient who's going to come to a Ruma, a Moksha, a Skin Sphere. Like, you ain't there yet, sister. You don't know yet. You have not seen enough patients with enough needles and enough faces, as you call it. What do you call it? Needle drugs or something hilarious.
Needle drugs.
You haven't used enough, enough toxin, filler, sculptor, whatever it is, yet to be good enough to take that patient on who is a sophisticated patient. I think when you're smaller, you buy yourself this leeway to say, hey, you're coming to me in this one room thing in a sola. You should expect that I'm going to be, it's going to be safe and good, but I'm not going to be, Larry Blevins or Erica Berry or Shelby Miller. I'm not there yet. They've been doing this for a long time. I'm a year into this thing. So I think that there is an unfortunate part that if you do build a mega, Taj Mahal, you're going to get that kind of patient, and you only get a very finite window in the beginning to not screw it up. And if you do screw it up, those patients have all the friends in all the world, and they're going to start talking all about it. And then you've ruined yourself before you've even gotten started. So I just feel like to give yourself some grace, I would always prefer, even if you have money to go big, to go small and grow your skills while you grow your practice and while you grow your patient base. Like, you can all grow up together. It's, it's kind of in lockstep.
And that's kind of what I've done with Smooth and Baton Rouge. But I think, they all, my original OG patients, they still text me, hey, I need an appointment. Like, this is before I had aesthetic record. This is before I had all these different things. And they still do. But now that machine just kind of runs itself as well, because, shameless plug, I'm not getting paid to say this, but like aesthetic record, the actual app, and has been incredible for my business, because I just wake up in the morning and it's full, right? I don't really have to do a whole hell of a lot, because that has made it so easy for people to get in. But the dual timelines that I was on, I started at Kronos and Metarie in August of 2019, and then I started at Smooth in September of 2019, right? Kronos is an established med spa. They had lost their other injector. They were looking for somebody. I was looking for something to do. So I have had these two pathways. One with an established, whole med spa, massages, facials, lots of estheticians, lasers, and they just needed an injector. So I'm watching their progress and watching how they do things while I'm still doing, my own thing. And so I have been fortunate enough to see how it works on both sides, and I get a nice pairing of both of those. The same thing with the plastic surgery office that I work at in Ohio. I get to see, okay, how do they do it? What are all the differences? And I get these inside looks that I never got at the other place, right? Um, to kind of figure out what's my next step, what I'm going to do. And honestly, I like having to just kind of plug and play in two locations, and one, it's mine, and I get to grow it without the stress of where's my next paycheck going to come from, without the stress of like, oh my God, no one's here. What I'm a failure. But I'm not, because I've got these two other things. And now all three have blown up and I'm so busy traveling all the time. But without everything that's happened previously, I wouldn't have that opportunity.
I think that poses such a cool juxtaposition. And I think what you've done there, if I were doing this, if I were an injector and I was, not at the point of having like a massive giant practice yet with lots of injectors, lots of things happening, I would do the same thing. Like take a day a week and go work in a practice that is a machine that is humming, that just needs you to fill, plug a hole and watch how they do things. The good, the
Mm-hmm.
bad, where is the P&L off for them? Where do you see excess and money waste? And I think when you come from injectors who come from lots of practices over time and learn as they go, they have a different mentality when they show up to their own practice of like having seen the good, bad, and the ugly. If you go into it without having that experience, like you don't know what you don't know because you never worked in a practice. But I feel like too the safety net in a sense of you having other, two other practices who are going to pay you and you're going to have patients, they're going to market for you and you're going to be there and show up and do your thing keeps you from having the fear probably, more so than smooth, if they don't come, what do I do? But question for you is what happens when smooth blows up to the point that you have to be there every single day? What will you do then? How will you manage all of this? And is there an exit plan at some point to say, I'm going to, let's say it's 1 year, 5 years, 6 years. I can't keep doing this. I've got to focus on just my, building my own empire.
Right. So I think that, all my other offices also know, like, I have other places I need to be. So number one, the open communication between all parties is everything. I learned the hard way the first time, like, this one office didn't like that I was still going to work in Ohio, but that I had no money coming in. I had no money coming in from this other office because there wasn't the proper promotion. It just wasn't right, right? So what I learned from that, be open and honest. Hey, listen, guys, I'm still going to this other clinic, like totally different markets. I'm not stealing patients. I'm not doing any of that. But having that conversation is number one, first and foremost. So if you're going to do that, be honest with people. It goes way further in the long run. As far as the growth of Smooth and figuring out what to do, about these other practices, I was originally going to Ohio every 6 weeks, right? That got to be a lot. So I moved it back to every 8, right? So yes, a couple Botox patients, if they can't do they can't wait 4 months. Yeah, they're going to go somewhere else, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. But the ones who do come back, they are so loyal and they're going to do whatever I tell them to do. So it's worth it to continue going back. Now the Baton Rouge, New Orleans situation, I had chosen since moving to North Carolina, right? On a week, off a week. So 7 on, 7 off. I've extended my hours, which makes me tired, but it's okay. So instead of working a normal like 10 to 5, 9 to 5, some of these injectors work 10 to 3. I work 7 a.m. to 8, 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, and I just crank it out and wake up in the morning, drink a coffee, and do that for 6 days straight. So I'm really working 40 hours a week, well, 80 hours a week, and I just take the next week off. Now, that being said, like I'm playing housewife right now in North Carolina. I'm not quite ready to branch out and open anything here. I'm not quite ready. I feel it. I feel it in my bones that like it's trying to like fester, like, hey, you should do something. I got my license here already, but I'm trying to figure out because I didn't do it with Smooth. And this now I'm thinking to myself, because I didn't do that with Smooth because I had to do something, I can feel a little hesitation on this. And that's interesting because I don't normally feel that. A little bit of fear, my dreams are getting a little bit big and they're scaring me. So obviously that means I need to go do something about it. But Smooth has blown up. I went from September of 2019 with COVID involved as well, right? So I was like, oh my God, this thing is going to fail in its first year because September and then March of 2020, we shut down for 2.5, 3 months. And I'm like, okay, well, that was a good time. I guess it's over now. but it has blown up. And I've seen this tremendous growth. And all I can do is just, say, hey, get my systems and processes in place to where, look, if you're going to come back to me as a patient, you're booking now. Like, you are pre-booking. We are not playing this game of, can you squeeze me in? I can't do it. I have to find ways to eliminate all the stress from my job. I mean, granted, I have everything on the back end, but we don't need the extra added stress of, hey, I forgot to do this. Can you squeeze me in? And I'm like running ragged with, my eyeballs hanging out, my hair on top of my head, trying to get everybody figured out. If down the road, like I said, 7 on, 7 off, maybe I need to be 10 on. I can't do math, and 4 off. Expand my time or shift a little bit. That's something that I think about all the time these days because I am traveling so much. So shit, I don't know. We're going to figure it out together. Maybe I'll call you after this and figure it out. But like, here we are.
Well, it's interesting that I met you through Heather Rippian, who has a very similar lifestyle. I feel like you guys are, you're like the young version of Heather, because she's in Manhattan so many days a week, and then she's in North Carolina. And I know that she injects at Grace's practice at Vitality, here and there and everywhere, because she's the same way you are. I mean, she works her practices in Manhattan. I mean, she just lives in North Carolina, but she practices somewhere totally different. But I think she has a patient load there that's like, now that she's there, it's like, well, I'm already here. She's a hustler too. My God, she works all the time. It's like, I'm at home, I'm bored. I might as well inject some patients. I think at some point, it's just a natural cycle of things, because if you're a go-doer, you just have to go do. I think being stagnant for very long, I think you get equally as nervous about being still as you do about doing too much stuff. But, it's interesting with Heather, because I've always said, why don't you have a practice in North Carolina? She's like, because I really don't want one. I already have a practice. I don't want to be, like, when I'm home, because I am traveling so much. I want to protect this time with my family. I'm sure you're in a similar vein of, like, when I'm here, I want to be here. Because when I'm not here, I'm like, 8 to 8 every day, all the time, all the hustle. But I'm sure your husband misses you when you're traveling so much. But then again, for a marriage, being apart is one of the secrets to success to keep it going. Just FYI. But
oh my God, no, I love him so much more that I don't see him. That's so terrible to say. Oh my God, please don't listen to that. I told him last night at dinner, I was like, I think I like you more this week, because I'm not mad that he's, leaving a dish in the sink to soak. That's not a thing. Just rinse it. It's not, don't let it just, that's not a thing. Put it in the dishwasher. Just do it. Okay. Right. So that's how frustrated I get, like, over a fork. Okay. But because I get to spend that time away and I get to protect that time here, absolutely. Like, my home life is great. Am I itching to do something here? It's starting to itch. It's starting to, as all my little home projects are kind of falling away and everything's getting finished, I'm looking towards the future of, well, I can't sit here. I learned during COVID, I'm not a stay-at-home anything. I'm not a stay-at-home dog mom. I'm not a stay-at-home wife. I'm not a stay-at-home mom. If that, the good Lord blesses me with a child, I can't do it. I can't do it. It's not going to happen. So I'll go work at Walmart if I have to. If I can't find something, I cannot sit at home. So that being said, we're going to figure it out. Do I open more days in Louisiana? Do I open something here? But Heather and I talk all the time about this. It is tiring, but we love it. And I think that's what sets a lot of injectors apart, is when people come ask you, oh, I want to get into this. I love skin. I love this. Yeah, but do you love the people? Do you love what you're going to get to do? Do you love the background of this woman just laid her entire heart out on the chair. We didn't even do an injection today, right? Because she came in and she was distraught. And I'm like, well, obviously something's going on here and I can't fix it. This needle is not going to fix that. So let's just have a heart to heart. Do you love the people? Do you love your job? And if the answer is unequivocally yes, yeah, we're going to figure it out. You're just going to work through it.
And do you love work? I mean, I think people misunderstand. I hear this often as well. If I go into aesthetics, I can control my own schedule and I can do my own thing. And, it's my time. And at the hospital, I'm overnight and I'm, overtime hours. And I'm like, if you think you work at the hospital, you ain't seen nothing yet, because this industry will eat your soul. I mean, I work 20 hours a day, give or take, and I'm still 4 weeks behind every single minute of my life. We have a mutual friend, Kens Jackson. She's here in Dallas. She's 28 or so, has this gorgeous big practice. It's because she works from 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. every day of her life. She works like that every single day. She's like, I have to do it now. I have to go. I have to work. I have to see patients. She's just built that way. You're built that way. I'm built that way. People who succeed here, you have to, in a sense, be built that way. And I think this is not a shortcut for not working hard in aesthetics. Like that is a very big misconception. I was listening to Erica Berry's podcast last night with Leslie Tracy, and she's like, I work all the time. It's all I ever do. Like, that's my, I'm a mom and I'm a wife, sure, but I'm also I'm all in. And I think this can't be a side hustle. We discuss that a lot. It can't be a side hustle, but you've got to give it over, to the aesthetic gods to work here and to survive here. Because if you think a 40-hour work week is the real thing that happens here, that's by Wednesday afternoon. Like in my life, that's by Tuesday afternoon. Like there's just no such thing as a 40-hour work week in aesthetics, especially if you're going to own the business. You have to really go all in. So I think that you're going to get bored and you're going to be in North Carolina opening up another location and just, empire building every day, all day. That's my future. That's what I see for you.
Well, absolutely. And I'm already like, okay, if I can name Smooth, like Queen City, these are the things that as I'm, doing my little house projects, and I'll touch on that in a second too. Like things are rolling in my brain. I'm like, okay, where are the people? Who's, what's the demo? I'm running through a business plan in my head as I'm taping up the room next door to paint, that's what's happening for me. But I think that if you don't sell your soul, if you're not willing to sell your soul, right, it ain't for you. It's not, because just like you're saying, even though I'm seeing patients from 7 to 9, right, when I'm in Louisiana, my brain is still working. I'm still answering emails, still coming up with business plans on my quote unquote off week. I don't have an off week. It's just, what am I doing? But when I am here, I've made a promise to myself. I said, all right, Sarah, if you're going to move to North Carolina and be a very supportive wife, because look, your girl was not going. I told my husband, he goes, I got a promotion. And I was like, that's great. I'm not going. I have this practice here. I ain't doing it. And he was like, okay, well, we're married. And I said, okay, people do this all the time and live coast. He's like, we have not been married a year. Come on. I'm like, all right, fine. We'll figure this out. But I made a promise to myself that I was going to make this house what I wanted it to be. So when I am here, I feel like it's mine, right? And I made that promise to myself. So because I know I'm going to be traveling a lot, and I have a feeling 2023, you ever get this vibe that big things are coming and you just feel it? I need to have a very safe place when I come home and put my head down and I'm like, okay, you can take off the 90 hats that you're wearing and this is good. So that's, I'm not going to start anything until, let me say this again. I'm not going to start a physical building because it's already started in my head until I get this physical building, this house done. But we were talking a little bit before about, moving and all that good stuff, and about, how it came about at Aesthetic Next. And y'all, you got to keep your husbands in check. You got to keep your people in check. My sweet loving to death husband, I told him, I said, babe, we got to figure out this marketing plan, because if I'm going to go, I need to figure out a schedule. I need to soft launch this. And, maybe I just don't even tell people that I'm moving. My schedule is just changing. And, they can ask questions in office, no big deal. And I'll tell them yeah, I moved. It's no big deal. I've done this for 5 years in Ohio already, going back and forth. Y'all, this man makes a public Facebook post. He makes a public Facebook post 2 weeks after we found out we were moving. And it's like, okay, bye. Loved y'all. Had fun in Baton Rouge. See you later. Makes no mention of the fact that I'm staying and working. Now, we're big tennis people, right? And so, we're members of this tennis club, and, my tennis club goes and plays at the other tennis club, and there's a lot of women around. And my husband makes this post, and I don't know what's going on. I'm injecting patients, right? I got my Apple Watch on. This is important to the story. Got my Apple Watch on, and it's blowing up. And I'm just thinking, it's all my patients texting me. I'm like, maybe my website's something's going on. I'll fix it later. No big deal. And so I'm, doing a cheek and, holding somebody up, and I see on my watch, it flashes across. It's a friend of mine. She goes, do you have something to tell me? And I was like, I don't think so, but I'm going to let that slide. I don't think, if you know me, things are scatterbrained. I showed up for this meeting an hour early because I thought it was at a different time. We're fine. And then a screenshot of my husband's Facebook post comes across this watch. Y'all, I about had a heart attack. I'm like, this mother. So I get that patient out. I read the text, the screenshot. Y'all, he made zero mention of the fact that I was staying and working. So that marketing plan just gone, which is another thing in business, like, best laid plans, but whatever. Y'all, I got on the phone. I said, what are you doing? What are you doing? And he's like, oh, I was just excited. I wanted people to know that we were moving. I said, you made zero mention of the fact that I was staying. He's like, well, I mean, yeah, you were going to do that. No, I'm not friends with any of your patients. It's not a big deal. I said, you don't know who my patients are. It's called HIPAA, bruh. Like, you can't. He makes this post, y'all. My little tennis team, the little day team, went and played the day team at the country club. And unbeknownst to, the person who was telling the story, all these girls are my clients, all of them. Y'all, it was full blown panic mode. I had to do so much PR damage control over the fact that I was moving. It's fine now. But moral of the story is, don't count your husbands out to mess up your whole marketing plan by putting a Facebook post out about a free. Y'all, bless him. I love him. We had a real come to Jesus after that one, though.
When I'm thinking, if you don't own a business and it doesn't have your name on it, you don't know the ramifications of this. That's why I'm not married, Sarah. That's why I was like, you know what? I kept my husband in check a little too much, and he checked out and I checked out. But that's a whole different podcast, not for today.
Right.
But I do have a question for you, thinking about, and I wrote this in our little outline, because this is one of the things that I'm good friends with the Behind the Fringe Squad girls, and they talk a lot about regional beauty standards. And I want to know, from a business perspective also, when you're in Louisiana, which go Tigers. I'm sure at the end of that post he said GEAUX, go Tigers, at the end of his Facebook post when he was piecing out. You guys are all like obsessed with LSU, by the way. Oh, gross. Sorry, LSU fans listening. I can't even deal with it. It's just over the top. But anywho, when you're there and you're injecting, is it a whole different aesthetic? And then you go to Ohio, and we have a few things in Ohio here with AR. Whole different patient look up there. It's like Texas. We got big boobs, big hair, big cheeks. Like, we're big. But you go to New York and it's like, subtle and sophisticated. How is that for you as the injector, kind of remembering, like, which city am I in? What kind of patients am I treating here? What do they want to look like? Is it even a real thing?
Oh, it's totally a real thing. Also, my husband's an Auburn fan, so it really makes it difficult in our house sometimes. But anyway, my light keeps going out, so we're just gonna have to deal with this. Sorry, guys. So as far as the regional beauty standards, I think for the most part, my people want to be as natural as they can, right? The personalities, however, are very different. So New Orleans versus Baton Rouge versus Ohio. I would say my Ohio people are maybe a little bit more timid, a little bit more nervous about kind of, this is my first time. I don't want to put this in my face. They're open to, what you have to tell them, but they're going to put in just a little baby bit, and then they buy in and they're yours, right? I think that's like a Midwest mentality, though. Like, just a little bit, we're going to hold you here for a second. But then as soon as you're in, you're in. My Baton Rouge people are sweet. We love them. They want a little bit more of like a nicer approach. Like, maybe you could try to do this. And they respond a lot better to that. My New Orleans people, look, I could shoot you straight and be like, girl, that cheek is, you jacked up. Like, can I fix those lips? I'm gonna get my hands on those. And they're like, oh God, yes, please fix me. Like, you can just shoot them straight. And they're with you 100%. They're also gonna be the ones that are like, Sarah, you got a little broccoli in your teeth, And I'm like, oh my God, thank you. No one else told me. Like, so, but as far as the regional beauty standards, we run the gamut, right? I think what I do, though, is I try to, this is so weird. We're kind of like gods with the needles, right? Like, we have control over what your face is going to look like. So I think less is more, but less does not mean I'm going to put less in your face, right? I'm going to contour in a way that makes sense for you. But, we don't have necessarily, well, I guess Ohio is like, they don't want big lips. They don't want anything big. Baton Rouge, New Orleans, I can get away with a little bit more, if they want to go a little bit bigger. But I also don't like doing that. So if they want it, we have a lot of come to Jesuses. I make people wait 6-7 months before I'll put another syringe of lip filler in, just because, I mean, I don't know if y'all can tell, I got a big personality and I surround myself with people with big personalities. I know I seem like a wallflower, but like, get me in person and it's fine. Get another drink in me and I'm going to start having a little bit of a Cajun accent more than a Southern accent. So, but I have to kind of take the reins on that on some of these people, because if I let them do something every single time they come, and they're going to do it and they're going to look crazy. And that's great. You go walk around and you look crazy, but my name's not going to be attached to that. I ain't doing it. I just, that makes no sense for me. That makes no sense for my business. So as an injector and as a business owner, we also have to be cognizant of what we're doing to people. We can't just give people what they want. Saying no in this industry means so much more to these patients than giving them what they want. Because what's the number one fear? They all come in saying, I don't want to look crazy. I don't want big lips. I don't want. Okay, well, I'm not going to give that to you. So if you tell them no, that they can't have something, it makes them A, want to come back to you more. And then B, whatever you do suggest to them, they're going to do it because, you've got a vision. You've got good work. They've either stalked you on Instagram. They're looking at the people in your office to see what they look like. I mean, the horror stories I've heard of people coming from other offices and they're like, I just got a bad vibe. They didn't look right. They didn't, whatever it is. If your injector looks crazy, you're going to look crazy. That's just bottom line. That's what I think. If they have lost sight of what their own face looks like, they don't know what your face is going to look like. And I think that's just, too much access, too much. They can literally go in the room next door, grab the syringe and don't self-inject, but self-inject. And here we are. That's why I think that sometimes this industry gets a little bit of a bad rap, for that kind of stuff.
As you're saying that, I'm thinking about even Aesthetic Next. Even when I was at Galderma, you have these big events with the injectors, and they all walk in, in a group, and you can like pick out the over-voluminous cheek a mile away. Like the V1, V2, V3 is like their playground. I don't know. It's out of control. And you see these crazy lips, these crazy cheeks. I'm thinking to myself, is a patient looking at you saying, I want to look just like you? No, they're saying, holy shit, you look like a crazy person. You look like an anime character. And so I hear you. Or the front desk girl has some crazy big lips, or the MA, her cheeks are way too big. It's like, this is all a reflection of your practice. This is your billboard. And I want someone to intervene and say, hey, this is not good for you. Like I had that, someone intervened with me and said, whoa, you're looking crazy. But I mean, I'm prime proof. 5-6 years ago, we weren't really sophisticated yet as injectors. My face was nothing like it is today. Nothing like this. Thank God I have a wonderful injector who does a phenomenal job, and he's crazy about what I get put in my face and how much I do and where I do it. And I look like a completely different person. Like, this is how I want to look now. How I looked back then in pictures, I'm like, my nasolabial folds, the shadows, it was just awful. You could have set a teacup on my cheeks, Sarah. You could have literally eaten your breakfast on my cheeks. They were so big. And I have a giant face. So it's like, you can't do that. I'm a black hole. Like, if you need one syringe, I need 8 to I'm a black hole, like literally. But anyway, my point in saying that is, your injector matters so much, and I don't care how you get trained. I don't care where you go for training. At the end of the day, like it's you and the needle in someone's face. Like you just have to be able to do it and see it and feel it. And it is certainly math. It is science. There is an algorithm there, but at the end of the day, it's also what you're saying. This ability to say no and to stand up to the patient and say, I know that you want it, but you can't have it, or I'm not going to do that for you. So no matter how good you are at injecting, the people aspect of it, that wall you put up and you say no, and I'm firm in that, I think is equally as important for great outcomes. So that's the soft skills you got to have, the bedside manner, if you will, to survive here.
Well, then, and think about this. Think about what we talked about earlier, as far as like having a brand new injector who's $7,000 in debt at this point, or $100,000, whatever. Well, where does your ethical and moral compass land you if someone comes in and says, I want 8 syringes, and you're like, yes, but they've already got 42 in their face and they look like a pillow? Like that's not cool. And you really gotta search your soul sometimes. And I wonder what a lot of these people are doing, and that's not a dog out. That's just like, do you just not know that you're doing your patient a disservice, or do you want the money? And I gotta tell you, like, I don't give a shit about the money. It's great, don't get me wrong. But like I've said a million times, if I could go and sling needle drugs all over the place, I really think I'd be a great cartel leader. Okay, there's another story there. I think I'd be fantastic at it. I never dealt drugs, but I think that I'd be so good at it because I'd be like, oh no, you don't want this, you want that. Anyway, I can get into that later. But like, if I could run around just injecting for free, I would totally do it because I love it so much. And I think that you can change people's lives, but you don't have this added like carrot dangling over your head. If you've got this debt, you've gotten yourself into a hole because of how you decided to, open, and it matters. It matters.
This is going to be so unpopular when I say it, and I harp on this like almost every week, and you guys know it. You're like, Tiffany, shut up about this, about commission in a practice. As a business owner, I would hate commission. I would be so scared of commission in my practice, I would run the other direction because of what you're saying. If Sally Jane is, wanting to make money and she needs money at home and new house, whatever it is, she's like money hungry, she's going to push every needle in every face she can get her hands on because she wants a commission. And as a business owner, I have to deal with all that, right? I have to deal with the adverse event opportunities, with the chaos, the patients who are mad, looking crazy out in public. Like, there's a reason why fee splitting, beyond just the legal aspect of it, is also not a great idea because it perpetuates the wrong behavior. It incentivizes the wrong thing. So that's why I think productivity bonuses, like over the course of the month, what can you do? So you don't feel like you have to put it in someone's face, like in that day that wants 8 syringes. Take those 8 and spread it out over 3 patients. Like, I think it just changes the mindset a little bit. And as a business owner, I would be very fearful of having injectors out there who are just like dying to make commission, whatever it took, patient to patient, and doing whatever I had to do to, to get my syringe count up. I don't know. I just think I would be nervous about that because I think what you're saying is if you're really good at what you do, they will come and they will keep coming. You'll make the money. It's employees first, patients second, profits will follow. That's the motto, and I believe it. So I don't think you have to maximize every single patient every single time to stay afloat and pay your bills. I just don't think you have to.
No, you don't have to. I mean, I'm proof of that, right? I mean, again, I travel to Ohio, right? You get me for 2 days every 6 weeks. That's what you get. I could absolutely just take advantage of people and be like, yes, you need 19 syringes in your face. Absolutely. Why would you think anything else? Like, no, because you know what? If I do that to people, then A, they're going to be like, oh, she just takes my money all the time, which I don't want to be that girl, number one. And then B, you're not going to send people to me. You're not. I truly thought that after about a year of traveling back and forth to Ohio, which that started because I decided I wanted to go back to Louisiana, and he hired a new injector, and he was like, would you please come back and like train her every couple of weeks just to make sure, get a good transition to your next, for your patients anyway, whatever. I thought, okay, cool. I'm going to go back and forth. This is going to fizzle out. Like, there's no way this is going to be sustainable. He wants to pay for me to come up there and train, whatever. Sure, I'll do it. And here we are 5 years later, still doing it. New patients all the time, insane referral sources from patients who I don't even really see that much, but they have a lot of trust in me. And, I find that when I tell people no, or I say, you know what, it kind of feels like you're not really into doing all this today. There's no harm in waiting. Like your face is not going to fall off if we wait a couple weeks. It's okay. And that builds so much trust with them that they're like, yeah, whatever you want. This time you do want to put 5 syringes in? Okay. And they don't even hesitate.
Well, I think there's a part when you get used to saying no and you're okay to say no. When that crazy patient comes in your practice who wants to spend money for 18 syringes, but she's a total whack-a-mole, you can say, you're not for me, girl. Like, you're not the patient I want here. Like, love your money, love that you want to put down 10K today, but I don't want to deal with you forever. Like, I'm going to let you know I'm not doing it. Go somewhere else. And we have a lot of AN lectures about this, about BDD and patient dysmorphia and looking, really doing your screening up front to see if they're a good patient for your practice. And I think once you learn the power of no, not just because the lips are too big or the cheeks are too big, but also because you just don't want them anymore. It's okay to say you're not for me. It's like a restaurant. I reserve the right to say you're not the patron and I want my restaurant. You have to leave. It's your clinic. You do what you want. And we're not in necessary healthcare. We're not in medical crisis. We can turn them away. This is not the ER. We can say you can't come here. And I think until you get okay with saying no, it's so hard to turn that person away because, when you are a new injector, I know how hard it is. And I don't mean to poo-poo the commission thing. Like, I know you guys think I'm crazy about that, but I think that there's just a part of it where I want everyone to feel empowered to be able to say, no, you're not for me, or no, that's not for me, whatever that look is, and feel okay with that and not feel guilty about saying, I'm going to not have money now because I said no. Like, I think once you take that bull by the horns, your whole outlook on your practice and your whole dynamic about who you are as a business owner and an injector completely changes, because it's working from a place of power, not a place of desperation. So I'm saying it for you because I want you to feel powerful, people, not because I'm, an asshole, which some days I am, but not today. Today I'm nice.
That's a perfect point though, right? Like if learning that it's okay to set a boundary, it's okay to set that boundary for you. It's okay to set it for them. And I've had plenty of come to Jesus with some of these patients and, arguing over how they want their face to look, arguing over how many units they need. I'm like, look, go find somebody that's going to do 5 units. Go look, if that's what you're going to do, you're not going to take up a time slot from somebody that is willing to take my recommendation. And B, I'm not going to argue with you. If you want to do it, here's the needle. Have at it, sis. Like, good luck. Don't go blind. Good luck. Obviously, for legal reasons, I don't do that to people. Okay. Any lawyers listening? But in general, like, come on, y'all. We have the degree, we have the training, we can do this, and we can set this standard for ourselves and for the industry as a whole, right? Because the next med spa that pops up down the road, as it's going to do, it's going to happen. You set yourself apart because you are the expert, right? And that other person may be in that place of desperation, not in that place of, I'm here to help. I'm here to make sure that my patients look the best that they can and feel the best that they can. I'm not here to line my pocketbook. And as soon as you get that mindset, all of a sudden the money rolls in, because people can feel that. They can feel that energy. They can feel, when somebody's desperate. You're at the hair place and they're like, buy all of these products. You need them all. I'm like, yeah, but you told me 12 different ones last time. So what's the lines didn't change. What's going on? Like, you can feel it. So I think that as a new injector, as an old injector, whoever, own that, and you're going to soar. It's going to be amazing.
And we'll have less Marge Simpsons out walking around too, because we'll have more people saying you shouldn't have that done. But all that to say, I think it's been like an hour. Can you believe that? We could talk for like.
Honey, we could go for a very long time. I'm sure of that.
We could talk forever. And as I listen to you, where you are in your journey, what you think you're going to do next, the next 5, 10, 15 years, you've got an incredible runway, by the way. Like, I can't even imagine sitting where you're sitting now, knowing how much you know about business. I just think is such a blessing, because you know what to expect and how the money works and how it flows in. But I think as I look at that, you're also going to become a target, in some ways. To your point, you are blonde. You're super cute. This girl's got legs that are longer than my entire body. If you guys could just see them, it's crazy. You have all the things people want. I think, it's like the Erica, same saga, right? They're going to love to hate you at some point. And how will you, I know your personality, you're going to be like, good for you. How will you deal with that when you become the target? Because I think at some point, inevitably for all great injectors or people who are successful, that will happen for you.
Well, A, thank you for the compliment. That is very nice. B, I really haven't thought about that, but this conversation has really brought up a lot of things for me. When you meet me in person, like, look, you and I shot the shit in a parking lot. We're like, okay, we're friends now. Borrowed your Spanx, brought him back. That was really nice of you. But like, if you don't like me, that's fine. But wait, what does it go? What does Cardi B say? Not Cardi B, but she goes, if you don't like me, that's fine, but watch your mouth. But not really, right? Because your opinion of me is your opinion, right? Like, I have no business in your opinions. And as far as becoming a target, like, oh freaking well. You know what word I wanted to say in there, and I didn't stop myself from using our other favorite F word. It's just, I think when you have a good outlook, and like, I'm not a jealous person. If I am jealous, you must have something real good. Like, I am all about, okay, let's bring this back, because I was pissed when I got fired. Not like a little mad. Like, I'm going to burn this whole effort to the ground mad. And if you know me, I carry a pack of matches in the back pocket. Like, I'm ready. I never use them. But if I need to burn something in the ground, I will. I will die on some hills. But anyway, I was mad. Like, how dare you? I moved, I bought a house, I've been here for 6 months. Like, granted, I did move back to Baton Rouge, which is essentially a hometown. So it wasn't terrible in the sense of like I had no one, right? So that was fine. But I'm like, this is stupid. Like, I'm great. This is me in my own head. I'm like, I'm great. My patients in Ohio, like, I cry. I got fired and I was already scheduled to go to Ohio that day. I cried my happy ass the entire way to the airport, an hour drive, just bawling, crying because I was mad and sad and confused and all these different things. And I woke up for 2 months livid. My fun employment time, livid. And then all of a sudden, one day, I woke up and I was like, why are you acting like this? This is stupid. Like, there is room on the playground for everyone. Look, you go take the monkey bars. I'm going to take the sandbox. This person over here can take the swings. There's room for everyone. And if you want to come to the sandbox, come on. Look, lots of sand. You can have a couple grains. I'm going to have a couple. We're going to be fine. But until I woke up with that mentality, when I tell you I asked so many doctors to be my supervising physician. Like, I was coming up short everywhere I turned. And the day I woke up and I was like, you got to stop acting like an ass. Like, you are acting a fool right now. And not outwardly. I didn't think outwardly. I don't know. You could probably ask some people if I was acting a fool outwardly. But I woke up happy as a clam. Like, I'm gonna be a better person. The next day, my now supervising physician reached out and she was like, hey, I heard you were looking for somebody. I'm very interested. Would you like to sit down? And that's the end of it. Like, that's how it started. So this whole like get out of your own way situation has been big for me over the last couple of years. Because again, I will die on a hill, whether I'm right or wrong on some things. And as soon as I opened up my mind to other opportunities, it started rolling in, right? So having a target on my back, like, that's not on me, right? So that's the person who I was 3 years ago being mad that, oh, why? Well, she's got that. Why can't I have that? Why? Blah, blah, blah. Have fun with that. Go say a prayer, because Lord knows we all need it, but really you need it right now if you're going to come after somebody like that. So I don't subscribe to it for now. I don't know. Maybe somebody's going to say something really mean to me at some point, and I got a sharp tongue, so I might come back at them. But live your life. If that's what you got to say, please, by all means, if that makes you feel better, go for it. Have fun. I'm going to be over here in my sandbox, and I'm going to invite other people to the sandbox. And if you want to come on my playground, I'm here for you. I'm ready.
It's a couple things there. I feel like I've had so many things like that in my life where I was just like bewildered and shocked of like, how could this have happened to me? But I'm a person who I will forgive and forget and move on, because I can't, I love me more than I hate you. From divorce, from work, like I love me and what I can build more than I hate you and what you can or can't do. So I'm very much, I prescribe to that same idea that you have of, you just got to keep going forward. Like, I can't deal with all the BS. But second thing is, like, when you're a new injector here, and I ask you that question because I feel like people don't think about that yet. When they come into this industry, they come in excited and eager, and they're building their business and they're trying to learn to inject. And they don't think about the fact that when you're here, because we say community over competition, but we don't really do it here. We say it all the time, but people don't do it. They forget that there will come a time when you get this like celebritydom, which it's in our little niche, and I get that. I know it's like our little world of celebrity, but it is like being a celebrity. And you're going to get mean DMs, people saying your work is terrible and that you're awful, and that, I went to your lecture and it was awful. Even they send me stuff like that. Like, your lecture's terrible. You're all wrong about everything, whatever. And you have to just not give a shit. And I think until you learn that, if your skin's not already thick, that's a very hard, lonely, tragic in some cases place to be for an injector who's working so hard to do well and to become successful, to then the minute they get to that point and they get on that hill, they get knocked down again. And it's like starting over in a whole new way to like build your personality, character on social media. And because social media is such a polarizing thing anyway, I feel like it's a thing to always remind people of, one day when you're good at this thing, that will come, and get ready for that and make sure that you're prepared for that. Someone to take that, the Nancy Kerrigan thing, the tire iron to your knees in the Olympics, because they're going to do it. Tonya Harding's out there, honey, and she's looking for you all the time, every day. So I'm glad that you got a middle finger attitude. I like it.
I got middle fingers up all the time. Now they're gonna come give you a little hug, if you, but like, and I'm loyal to a fault. You could Tanya Harding me. You could. And I'd be like, it's okay. You were having a bad day. But like, here's what I will say. You can come for me all day long. You don't come from my people. Maybe that's the hills I die on. You don't come from my people and you don't come from my patience, because I will find you, you little keyboard warrior. I will come get you. Because it's just, you just don't think about how sad that person has to be. Think about how, like, what's going on in that person's life to make them feel that way. And this is like years of therapy and like trauma from, childhood trauma. But like, I used to be somebody, I don't give a shit. I will come for you. But now I'm like, well, you know what? Maybe that person's having a really bad day. And I've actually had some people, try that, be ugly to me, whatever. And then they come back and be like, you know what? I'm sorry. Like I was having a bad day. I'm like, that's okay. We're cool. No big deal. But as far as somebody like, you're right. Look, when I was at Aesthetic Next, the ride of how I got to you and to Heather and I'm like, who let the little cockroach in the room? I had a breakfast meeting with, Carrie Galpin, and she's like, why don't you come to this dinner tonight? And I'm like, okay. Show up. I was like eager beaver, like I was today, an hour early. But anyway, I sat with her and I talked to her, and then Heather, I'm watching the people that, again, little stardom, so super Star Trek, the people who filed into this dinner. I'm like, oh my God. Oh, like this is huge. And everyone was so nice and kind, but like when you find yourself in a position like that, you need to take it with grace, and you need to be like, these are normal people. They are nice people. And here we are in a podcast. What month are we in? 3 months later, talking about all this stuff. Like, if you have those negative mindsets, if you have the jealousy mindset, things like this don't come to you, right? It just doesn't happen. So if you stay positive and if you don't let people get you down, well, shit, you're going to end up on a podcast cursing like a fool. But it's just, if you're happy, no one can take you down.
I agree. The universe enjoys people who operate from abundance and not from scarcity. I believe that wholeheartedly. But we are definitely at an hour. So for the record, I have loved having you on. I can't, it's only been 3 months. It's shocking to me because I feel like I've known you my entire life, and I've only really met you twice. We spent a great weekend together in Philadelphia at Amy's Coast to Coast.
Yep.
But like I said, long runway. You got a lot going on. I can't wait to see what you're doing in 5 years, 10 years. But give our listeners how to find you, Instagram handle, if you're going to be at any meetings coming up. Where do we do the Where's Waldo for Sarah?
Okay, well, first, you're probably going to need to be on an American Airlines flight between Charlotte and New Orleans, or between Charlotte and Detroit. So you could find me there. Usually like 36F is where I like to be. 18F is if it's a smaller plane. I like F because I like to put the right side of my head on the window. Anyway, but it's Smooth by Sarah on Instagram. And that's where you find me. Please take everything on there with a grain of salt. That is who I am as a human. I have a lot of fun on my social media, and it's a good time.
Well, it's a great page with lots of fun, and when they meet you in person, you're even better. So your social media doesn't even do half the justice of what you are like in real life.
Yeah, because I can't curse like I do in real life. I can't tell my real story. Like, I can't tell people how I don't know if I'm allowed in Canada or not. Like, that's another story for another day.
Well, I wasn't for a while or anywhere because of, #marriage problems. But anyway, you're right. Different podcast, different day. But for us here at For the Record, that's going to be the end of this crazy journey we've been on. And Sarah, we will for sure put that in the comments of where to find you, how to find your practice. We'll see you at Aesthetic Next for sure next year, and hopefully other places between now and then. But guys, go give her a follow. I promise you'll enjoy it. But also just to see, what it looks like through someone who is doing a lot of different things in the industry and doing it in a very different way, not the status quo. And to get a real deal, raw sense of what it's like living here in aesthetics and surviving here in aesthetics. So, Sarah, thank you so much for coming on today, and I have loved every second of it.
Thank you, my love. I'm so happy to see you. I wish I could give you a big old hug right now, but you're a little far.
Virtual hugs.
Virtual hug. I love you. Thank you so much, y'all. and have the best time. Be nice to people. It'll get you far.
Be nice. And for all of you listening, we will see you guys again next week. Thanks for listening to another episode of For the Record. This podcast is not intended to provide legal or medical advice. It's for entertainment, education, and information purposes only. For more information on this week's guest or to get started with Aesthetic Record, email us at info@aestheticrecord.com. Be sure to tune in next week for more fresh perspectives on disrupting the status quo and surviving in the aesthetics industry.